Okay, we're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. It's I'd like to welcome everyone today, and it's always a pleasure to see this large crowd join us. Today is March 10th, and this is our regular session of our monthly Board of Commissioners meeting. And we always start them out with a prayer and a pledge. So this evening we're going to have Commissioner Ellis to lead us in the prayer, and Commissioner Green will lead us in the pledge. You will please stand.
Let's bow. Father, we come to you tonight to thank you for all the blessings that you've given us, the blessings of health, the blessings of community. We ask for your guidance in what we say, what we do, and the leadership of this county, and we ask for your blessings there, your continued blessings there. I'd just like to say thank you for the employees of the county and what they mean to this county and their individual impact. And we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've all had a chance to look at the minutes. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chair, make a motion we approve as presented.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Need approval of agenda for the night.
So moved.
Second.
Is it okay if we add a closed session at the end, one, and then two, it's not an addition to the agenda for the cover, but are under administrative items, you have an updated memo, emailed this earlier, just a request for Trails and Trains Committee that came in, as well as a authorization to purchase an ambulance. So again,
Mr. Chair, make a motion that I amend my motion to include the items presented by the county manager.
Second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First on our appointments tonight, we have the, under item A, we have the Blueridge processing update request from Mr. Josh Clark, and we welcome him here tonight to give us an update on the great facility they have open and the progress they're making.
Good evening.
Hey.
My name is Ashley Clark, and this is my husband, Josh Clark. We bought the former Foothills pilot plant from the county back in 2023. We are a USDA inspected meat processing facility, specializing in many value-added items for a lot of farmers. We focus mainly for farmers so that we can give back to the community as much as possible. Currently, we are completely booked for 2025 and almost all of 2026. So we've taken it from, a bare building like we had, and we pretty much stripped everything and turned it in what we needed it to, with the, the help of the county selling us the property. We're actually looking to expand now. After Hurricane Helene, our retail sales have really went up. There's a lot of people that are really wanting to support our business after what we did to help the community. So we are looking to expand into a retail space so that we can further help the community. Currently we're serving 143 farmers that we purchase from, as well as we process for them. And pretty much anywhere that you can think of, we're bringing business in from every point of North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. We've kind of been amazed at the demand that we've created. So last year, we were inspected as of January. It took us from July, whenever we purchased the property, until January to get USDA inspected. And so last year, we were able to process 70 beef, 231 pigs, and 81 lambs for local farmers. totaling around 170,000 pounds of meat going to the local communities. And then this year, we're at least doubling our numbers, which is a bit overwhelming, but we're making it work. And we have 6 full-time employees. We're looking for 2 more. That's kind of right along our numbers that we had proposed whenever we were buying the business, or buying the property. So we're looking to add a store that's going to employ 2 more full-time employees, as well as be able to be a marketplace for a lot of local producers for honey, produce, things like that. So our biggest goal is to get local healthy food to our community, however way, whatever way possible. And we're also looking to expand in the next couple of years, building another facility on the same property that we purchased from the county, to be able to do things like snack sticks, beef jerky, a lot of value-added things that we currently have farmers driving all the way to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin to have these products made. And we have the knowledge, the experience, and the capability to do so. We're just gonna expand as we can. What else would you like to add?
So far, since we bought the building, we've added probably about $300,000 worth of repair and equipment to the building. We're figuring we're probably going to invest another $75,000 to $100,000 in the store, and probably about $750,000 in the further processing building in the county. We should add 8 full-time employees. Is that all that?
Mm-hmm.
So that should help a lot. We'll probably be, once we get the store going with the numbers we're doing now, we'll probably be going through, 85 beef, around 250 pigs, and 50 lambs a year just stocking the store to sell locally. And
And
that'll all be purchased from within, 100 miles probably.
Mm-hmm.
We concentrate on all local farmers, which helps a lot of the local people out, because there's a lot of, it's hard to sell though. It's hard to compete with Tyson and big guys, but once you come to USDA, you can start selling by the cut. You can actually make a little more money on it, so it'll help a lot of farmers out.
This is certainly an excellent example of small business success here in the county, and frankly, you came along at the perfect time. We were sitting on a building that had previously been used for meat processing, and we could do nothing with it. We had it on the market, wanting to get rid of it, and nobody had a need for that. And fortunately, you guys came along, so it worked out really well for the county. So we are tickled to death that we came together and it became possible. And if any farmers are out there listening tonight, you need to get on the calendar. It seems like these guys are staying really busy. You're already booked up almost through next year.
Yep.
But we are really excited about the progress you've made, and we appreciate you guys having the perseverance you have in your business.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yep.
We would like to ask about the lot down below the building.
Or our property.
Yeah, down below the property. We'd like to see about renting or purchasing, but at least renting or leasing that property for the store. I think it'd be a great location for our store, right down the hill. And
We are currently talking about that. I don't know if it's at a point to where we could have a vote on it. There's an issue, I think, maybe with water, sewer. I don't know. Have you and Mr. Wooten spoken over that?
We didn't get into much of the details of it yet, because I didn't want to get ahead of the board on your interest or not in leasing that property, and so.
I think.
I would like to suggest that staff, county manager, get in touch with you and find out exactly what kind of building you're looking for. Is it going to require water? What all is it going to be? What size building is it going to be?
I think he's going to provide the building. He just
Yep.
needs the property.
we're looking at like a 16 by 40 building that's a roll-off building in case, after the lease, if you guys decide you need to do something else to the property, we can move it.
Mm-hmm.
So no permanent fixtures.
I personally would be all in for doing that, working out a tackle these.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we instruct staff to start negotiations and bring back a lease document to the board and let the board review it, and then we take action on it.
Second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, we
We'll be back
appreciate
in
it.
touch with you on that then.
Good luck. Good hearing from you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item B, is Sheriff's request for SRO at the Old Fort Elementary. Mr. Sheriff, you're welcome to the podium.
Good evening. Chairman Brown, Commissioners, Mr. Wooden, Madam Clerk. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. First of all, Commissioners, let me thank you for your support of safety in our schools for our teachers and our students that you give and have given for years. We've got a great opportunity, and I'm here not to discuss that, great opportunity to partner again with McDowell County Schools for the purpose of another school resource officer, this one to be dedicated to Old Fort Elementary School in Old Fort. Through partnerships with McDowell County Schools, we currently have 7 SROs granted to the Sheriff's Office. Our superintendent and school board have been great partners throughout the years in addressing school safety and have been gracious with these grant opportunities with funding these jobs. So adding one for the elementary school of Old Fort, which they have the grant already approved, and they would like to offer that to us to supply a deputy sheriff in that school resource position there at Old Fort. I believe we've got the right person for this job, and they will be a great fit for Old Fort Elementary and for the Old Fort community and McDowell County Sheriff's Office. You know, school resource officers are our frontline communicators with these children. We're building relationships in the schools that can last for a lifetime. And we have the opportunity to encourage these kids at an early age to run to us, not away from us. This enhances our security efforts. A visible, trained deputy sheriff can deter threats and respond quickly to emergencies if they're present on that campus. Educators can focus on teaching rather than handling security concerns. Crisis response readiness, having the devoted SRO improves emergency preparedness from active threats to even medical emergencies, having them on scene. Prevention of crime and violence. A constant presence can help reduce bullying, fights, as well as deter other criminal activity on or around that campus. This opportunity, again, is made available by grant from McDowell County Schools. The grant covers $44,000 of salary, with the remaining salary being split between McDowell County School Board, or schools, and the Sheriff's Office budgeted funds. I'm requesting the Commissioners consider or continue to support for funding and consider approving of this school resource officer grant for Old Fort Elementary.
If I may, let me ask just one question. Somebody asked me today, and I couldn't answer the question. This SRO will be dedicated to the school. Will they be expected by the town of Old Fort to answer calls outside of the school?
I can't speak to what Old Fort's expectations are. What I can speak to is what we do. And what we do is we want to primarily assign somebody to a particular school. If there's an emergency in a situation that someone can be a quick first response to, then I expect our people to go, whether that's a school resource officer or a detective or anybody that's close to that emergency. So, you know, as far as answering routine calls for service and things like that outside of what we're doing now, we're going to continue business as usual. The only addition will be that deputy is assigned primarily to that school. And there may be times where that deputy that's assigned to Old Fort Elementary, in case of an illness, in case of a sickness, in case someone is out at another school, that one assigned to Old Fort may also split the day between Old Fort and another elementary school. There'll be a school resource officer dedicated to the school system. However, we will put a primary focus with Old Fort Elementary.
Sheriff, I do want to say that our children's safety is the main priority. They need to feel like they can go into a school system, which the whole board feels this way. They can go into a school and go in there and learn and feel safe while they're learning. And so we definitely appreciate your department's support of this program and the dedicated officers that go into these schools. I mean, they're great guys, and your people do a tremendous job. And at the appropriate time, I will make a motion to approve this.
I second that motion.
Any other discussion? One question, certainly I think this, right at this point in time now, you know, Old Fort's already received the grant for this, but there will be a recurring expense on this eventually coming back to, and the county is, I think the county is perfectly willing to step in and do their part. My question would be, is Old Fort willing to, the city of Old Fort willing to contribute some to this, since that will put a sheriff's deputy in Old Fort at their disposal in an emergency need, as the sheriff was speaking.
I don't know that the question has been broached with the town. I have it on behalf of you, and I don't know if the sheriff has as far as the financial contribution. I do know they're struggling post-Helene and other situations to recruit staff, either probably for financial reasons and others.
Well, it could just be a question.
How
I think the consent of the board here is to move on with it either way. But we have a motion second.
How long is the grant for?
There's no sunset
Okay.
on the grant,
Okay.
just like our other 7.
The best kind of grant to get.
Yeah.
So,
It would be hard for the General Assembly to pull
Deny
those
that.
away.
Yeah, I think we're.
It could happen,
It's just
but politically it'd be hard.
okay, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're honored to be a part of that, Sheriff. We are truly honored.
yeah, I am too. I appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, next on the agenda is item C, the MACA update, and we have Miss Susan Baker here to give us the update on that. Welcome to the podium, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. And I just want to say thank you, as always, for your continued support of the arts. MACA has been here for 52 years. I'm creeping up on 18 years. And I was thinking just yesterday that until about 5 years ago, the county was our biggest operational funder, even more so than the state. But now I think we've got some good friends at the State Assembly, so they've helped the State Arts Council increase those funds now, so that's very good news for all the arts councils. And our largest program funder is actually McDowell County Schools. Last year we received $27,500. This year they were able to bring it back up to what our original amount was, which was $30,000. On top of that, through the Arts Council, we have written grants and raised an additional $50,950 to add on to that 30, almost tripling the amount of funding that goes into arts and education in our county schools. And only 6% of that is administrative. Arts and education, this is just aside, is one of my favorite things. It's dear to my heart. One of our programs, and it's the last page of this, is Keys for Kids. That's an initiative that was started by Ben Folds, and because it is private funding, it comes through the North Carolina Arts Foundation. As a pilot program, I reached out to the North Carolina Arts Council if we could be a part of that, and so we were one of 7 organizations across the state that was awarded that. We got Casio keyboards, donated some keyboards through good friend Jill Young, who was the music teacher at Old Fort for a long time, I knew that they had keyboards. So we created, with our program, we did it as an in-school program. And currently, through Old Fort and North Cove, we're reaching about 300 students a year in keyboard instruction. The original person who was running that, Nathan Shirley, has been able to hire 4 assistants, and he's also expanded it to West McDowell Middle School as an after-school program. So the kids from Old Fort and North Cove, as they move up to West, they're able to continue that. The long-range hope for the program is that the kids will eventually get their own keyboard to take home. This was, we're, out of all those places across the state, those organizations, we're the only one that's doing it in school. And like the other places are after school, they might reach a dozen kids. But we really are like their poster child for the program. They love us in McDowell County for how many kids we're reaching. We also, this year, the North Carolina Museum of Art started an after-school, well, they've been doing this across the state, but they came to McDowell County this year. So at West McDowell Middle School, East McDowell Middle School, and Foothills Community School, the North Carolina Museum of Art, because of our strong relationship within the schools, has been paying for art instruction and all the materials at those programs. They do one in the fall and one in the spring at all 3 schools. The second to the last page is about a library program we've been doing with adults with disabilities. And their caregivers can come to that as well. And this is something that MACA pays for the artist that is the instructor for that. We also pay for all the materials for that as well. We also have some programs coming up that are currently being planned within both Marion and the Old Fort branches of the library. On the second and third page are some handouts, flyers for a new grant we received last year. It was a very competitive grant called the Military and Veterans Healing Arts Grant. And this program we're running through both the senior centers and McDowell Tech. Again, this is free for the veterans that want to participate. Our instructor is also an Army veteran that is teaching those classes. Interestingly, we got a call from the National Endowment of the Arts. It's been about a week back, and they want to come down with their retired Navy doctor, 3 art therapists to look at our program. And they also want to meet with McDowell County EMS, and we'll probably meet at the senior center so that they can see how we're running things here, which is very exciting. Let's see. The NEA program is actually called Creative Forces. I'm almost done, y'all. We always do the McDowell Tech shows. Last month was about advertising and graphic design in our gallery at MACA. This month it is their photography program. So I invite everybody to come and see that. It's always a beautiful show. The things that is very public facing, we still have our artisan gift shop with over 100 local artists represented. We have the gallery, of course, classes and theater. Our theater is now home to Foothills Community Band. They rehearse every Tuesday and they have their concerts there. We also have McDowell Children's Theater that has continued to grow, and it is my joy. I love it so much. We just did Into the Woods. We had to move it. It was going to be in October. We moved it to December. It was a very joyous time. It was something that we kind of all needed right then. And then we just had auditions for Mean Girls, and we had 50 kids come out and audition. That was double what we've had in the past. We have a very strong technical theater side of McDowell Children's Theater, and we had 30 kids come out for that. They learned things like sound, lights, and also doing the set design and costuming. Last but not least, I am on the McDowell County 250 NC committee with Dr. Jordan Laney and many others that you have approved of. But between MACA and Dr. Laney, we applied for the 250 grant and got it. $30,000. That's the most you can get. I'm very proud of us. Our project is called Beyond 1842, McDowell County Oral History and Community Archive. And my favorite part of the email was that the panelists enthusiastically endorsed the project. The funding will support curriculum research, website design and development, community outreach, and educational materials. And this will be a project that can live on past 2026. And again, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions about the wonderful world of arts in McDowell County?
Your Foothills Community Band, when does it meet?
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
And that's a wonderful group, because you've got kids that just graduated high school that were big in band and on up. I'm not going to tell people's age. I don't think that's fair, so. But
Congratulations, Susan, on your grant writing too. Y'all been very successful. Good job.
thank you, thank you.
We appreciate the update, and we appreciate what you guys do.
Thank
Certainly
you.
do. And we,
Yeah, come by anytime, call me, email, any questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Moving along to item D, under appointments, we have the Helene update, and we've got Mr. William Kehler here to give us that update.
Wait for it to load here. All right, I think we're ready. Are y'all seeing the PowerPoint? All right, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present this month's Helene update. I have with me tonight, of course, the Deputy Director, Adrian Jones, who continues to do a phenomenal job and help guide this recovery process. Today is day 167 that the EOC has been activated, and we are in full recovery mode at this time. The current sections that continue to be activated and working at the EOC includes our operations section, debris removal, human services, situation unit, finance section, and public information. For the situation update, we've narrowed this down quite a bit over the past couple months, and tonight we're reporting on 2 of the main items remaining. When looking at major highways, NC 80 is the only major highway that is still not fully open, as it's closed to through traffic or to local traffic only. Above the school bus turnaround, as there continues to be a number of one-lane areas due to landslides. We are working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, North Carolina Emergency Management, and Lake Tahoma on debris removal operations that we expect to begin in the next 7 to 14 days. This project was approved under FEMA Public Assistance. It's estimated there's 400 to 500,000 cubic yards of debris in Lake Tahoma. For those that are in the audience tonight or listening, 75% of Marion's water comes out of Buck Creek, and it is essential that we clean this waterway up appropriately. Buck Creek is already approved and work is ongoing north of Lake Tahoma at this time. I think this is a good example of the importance of this recovery process and that it's done correctly, because the decisions that are made now have the potential to affect generations to come if we do not clean these waterways up correctly, as well as some other major recovery items. Lake James, 2 of the 3 hydro turbines are working, and that is allowing water to move through the lake, which is decreasing flood threat for the shoreline, as well as the Catawba and North Fork River. So that's good news, and that was ahead of schedule. An update on the community comfort station since the last time we were here in February is the one on US 221 North has closed. We have 135 Water Street still remaining in Old Fort, where folks can make use of the shower trailer as well as the laundry trailer, which has washers and dryers. FEMA Disaster Recovery Center continues to operate in Marion at the McDowell County Senior Center on the lower level. The hours continue to be the same, Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Over the weekend, it was announced individual assistance, commonly referred to as IA, with FEMA has been extended. Folks can still apply through April 7th. Here is the traffic count for the DRC. We are on the second block on the left from the top. You can see we're averaging 25 to 30 visits, with the exception of Saturdays, which is a low day there at the DRC. FEMA individual assistance, I put this slide in here. I want to call your attention to one fact or data point. Total amount paid to McDowell County citizens so far is $20,595,561. It's 11,615 applications. One can look at this number of $20 million plus being sent to McDowell County. When you break this down, it's an average per application, $1,773. One of the things I'm most concerned about, and to be frank, quite aggravated about, is only 40 of our citizens or applicants have received the maximum award of $42,500. And that is the maximum award for the home, which includes private roads and driveways and bridges in that $42,500.
What can we do as a board to help you communicate that message on up the chain to FEMA?
I think that this information continuing to be given to congressional delegation. We meet with FEMA on a weekly basis, and we are constantly advocating for the citizens of this county. The inspections have to be sped up. The overall denial rate, it's just very difficult for people to get approved, and the number of steps. They may get 3 or 4 different letters. We need this information. You send this information, well, we need this. And most people just give up. They get tired of it and they give up. And our staff has worked with a number of applicants to where we are advocating with them in front of FEMA or with FEMA to try to break the red tape and get these people approved. So this number is very discouraging to look at. When you look at, this is the worst disaster in North Carolina's history, the worst disaster in McDowell County's history. You do not have to drive down many roads to see folks that could use the $42,500 of houses that aren't even there. People that are paying mortgages for houses that are no longer standing. So this is something that we continue to work on a daily basis.
And William, I think we discussed this maybe in our last meeting, but for those folks that have already took it upon themselves to make repairs, it's not too late for them to apply, correct?
That is correct.
They need to go back and keep trying.
That's correct. For homes, for private roads, for bridges, April 7th is the deadline for a new application. April 7th isn't the cutoff. If you have an application in, April 7th isn't the cutoff for you. You can still provide documents and so forth, but the application has to be filed by April 7th. Temporary housing update, TSA hotel vouchers. This is the transitional sheltering assistance. We're down to 15 families in McDowell. The last time we were here, we were at 64. We saw a large decrease last week. We did not see an increase in our call center volume, which is a good sign, I think. But still, a significant drop like that last week was a concern that we continue to monitor that closely. Direct housing, there's still 3 families in McDowell that is looking for a FEMA trailer or a direct lease, meaning FEMA will lease an apartment temporarily for these folks. That number is down from 6 on February 10th. I've spoke every meeting about the volunteer organizations in this county, in the region, in the state, and across the U.S. Had it not been for the volunteer organizations, this disaster would look much worse on the housing side than it has. This group, led by Jerry Lewis and Victoria Gurick, who are our volunteer VOAD coordinators. This meeting was occurring weekly at the Emergency Ops Center. It has went to twice a month. But they bring in all of the organizations, and I've got a list of them in just a minute, that are assisting with rapid emergency repairs for houses. That includes Baptist on Mission, Samaritan's Purse, some of the larger organizations. They've had over 30 different organizations coordinating and working on these projects in McDowell. So there's been 443 total requests. They have completed 303. We have 86 pending, and 54 of the folks who initially requested assistance are unable to make contact. So they work in conjunction with our Human Services section to try to figure out where these people are at. Is it a phone issue? What is the situation that they're living in now, and do they still need assistance, instead of just dropping them if they can't make contact. The last meeting last Wednesday, here were some of the groups that were there. Grace Community Church, Gateway Foundation, Greg Withrow's SOS group, Landis Orthodox Presbyterian Church, Baptist on Mission, Divine Disaster Relief, Biltmore Church, LDR, which is associated with the Mennonites, Adventures Relief, Samaritan's Purse, Red Cross, then our agency, North Carolina EM, and then FEMA had 2 reps at this meeting. There's a couple pictures on Baptist on Missions. We've tried to get out and thank these volunteer organizations, meet them in the field, check on them. They're doing amazing work. This is a picture from Old Fort there near Westerman Street. Debris removal right away, pickup continues. We were advertising all of the debris that is going to be picked up on the right-of-way needed to be placed out on the right-of-way on private or state roads by March 1st. The end date for right-of-way pickup is April 1st. Crews are currently finishing the final pass throughout the county. They just started that in the last week, so it's going to take us a couple more weeks to get that 100%. We've got a list of folks that maybe a road was skipped on first pass. Inevitably, we're going to have that happen, but if folks have an issue with debris not being picked up, they can call the Helene hotline, and we'll make sure we coordinate that with the debris contractor. They're also working in private developments, removing that. That's going to be important to decrease the wildfire threat for these developments, along with all of our residents. And then waterway debris is wide open. There are 65 crews in McDowell working waterway debris today. There were 64 Saturday, 64 yesterday. And if you've been near a creek or a river, for the most part, they haven't got all of them, but they're working on a number of our creeks. Here's the timeline. You can see June 1st is the target timeline for all waterway debris missions to be complete. This is important for the outdoor economy as well throughout the county, so we hope, and I feel confident we'll be able to meet that on some of our major rivers here, especially the Catawba. This is the latest update from the Army Corps of Engineers a couple hours ago. So far, we have collected 234,204 cubic yards of debris. Just to give you an idea, the last time we were here providing you an update in February, that number was at 54,000. That's a significant increase in debris. We've seen that on our side, just the number of crews that are here. The debris field in Old Fort is busting at the seams. It is completely full. But that is a reflection of the amount that is coming off of the waterways, which, if broken down, is over 155,000 cubic yards have come out of the river so far. There is a...
Excuse me, William. Are those just from most of that waste that's gathered up there? Is that just from that area in there, or is that from all over the county?
That is the entire county figure.
Okay.
Yeah. Temporary debris sites, there's been one new site added since the last time we met. We still have that one on East Main Street between Aria and Ethan Allen. The second site that's come online is US 221 North. Locals will know that as the old H&B lumber facility. Is serving as the second temporary site. That is speeding up operations because everything coming out of the north end and the central end of the county doesn't have to go to Old Fort now, it can go to Woodlawn. Here's some pictures I included. This is work on the North Fork River. I don't know if you remember the first slide, that beautiful picture of the North Fork that was taken at the Lake James Road Bridge after it was cleaned up. They've done an amazing job, and that's what we want to see across the entire county. This is off of Armstrong Creek. This is Buck Creek below Triple C Campground.
William, as they're doing the debris removal in the waterways, are they digging down to create, to make sure that the next flood event won't encompass where the boundaries have been moved and changed by the water?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in this phase one, they're not rechanneling or changing the morphology of the river. It's simply removing hazardous debris that could pose a risk to the infrastructure. So what you're talking about could potentially be done in phase two under the Emergency Watershed Protection Program, or known as EWP. This is a picture from up NC 80. This is one of several pictures that we have, but you can see the pile of logs that are coming out of the rivers. And it's so critical to get these rivers cleaned up before hurricane season starts June 1st. Some tedious work. These folks, huge safety concerns that they got to be aware of. This is a picture of the track hoe working in a very rocky section of Buck Creek. This is some of the equipment they're using in the Catawba River. And then moving on to personal property debris removal, also called PPDR. We continue to advertise this for citizens who have debris on their property, on their maintained property, or property that's maintained. They can apply at our headquarters, or they can call and get assistance with applying online. But they can fill out an application. We screen that application, send it to FEMA for approval, and FEMA will send U.S. Army Corps of Engineer contractor to remove the debris. We're talking about trees around houses, trees next to driveways, trees that are threatening infrastructure on someone's property. And a lot of this is for our elderly folks who don't have the financial means or can't physically get out and cut debris, but it's open to anyone, and we encourage folks to take advantage. There will be an end date placed on these applications, or the application period. So far, there hasn't been one announced, but that will be forthcoming. So far, 314 applications have been submitted to our office. There is a contractor for the Army Corps working alongside of us at the EOC. Today, 40 of those applications were submitted to FEMA, and then others are going through a review, and then they have to have a final assessment where someone comes out to your property to make sure the right tree gets cut and someone's precious 100-year fruit tree doesn't get demolished, or a rock wall or something like that.
Like the Christmas tree on the courthouse yard, right?
Yeah, we don't want to be taking something that doesn't need to go. Another area that really remains a tough situation is private roads and bridges that there's just not a lot of progress on. You can see two of these. One on the left is a significant project that needs to be completed. This is a 6-digit plus project that's got families stranded and having to use emergency access that isn't safe at this point. The second picture is a footbridge that's being constructed. There's over 150 bridges that are out in McDowell. This is going to be costly for private infrastructure. These folks need assistance. The state allocated $100 million. That program looks like it's going to be ran through North Carolina Emergency Management's hazard mitigation program. But folks need help quickly. And this is something that we've continued to advocate for, that you all have advocated for, but these programs just haven't been stood up to assist citizens in a rapid fashion. We still are encouraging people, you need to apply at the Disaster Recovery Center. If you have a private bridge or road that is damaged, under the individual assistance program, that is that 42,500 cap. If there's multiple people on a road and they all use the same bridge, they can have different applications and pull that money together. As we said, there's not a lot of folks getting that maximum award, and these bridges are going to be costly simply for the fact of how wide our creeks are at this point. Town of Old Fort, we continue to support their recovery operations. There's been a lot of work around Old Fort School, or Old Fort Elementary and Mill Creek, as well as the Catawba River. Catawba Falls is back open. The mobile home that was in the waterway just adjacent to exit 73 in Old Fort, you saw it every time you exited, that was removed this weekend. The EOC staff is going to be conducting another field assessment a week from tomorrow. Our vision and goal is to make sure by the time the personal property debris application period closes, that every landowner that has been affected in that town has been notified that this is what's available, here's the closing period, do you want to take advantage of this? We're going to test this next week. If it's successful, we're going to continue rolling it out to the more rural areas. We continue to have emergency managers working Turkey Cove, Buck Creek, Curtis Creek. But we want to make sure we don't leave anyone behind, so they can take advantage of this opportunity. Hazard mitigation program, Adrian, or Deputy Director Jones is leading that. There's 32 properties that have applied for acquisition, 22 for elevation. The county will have 8 generator projects for hazard mitigation. And we are awaiting additional guidance on landslide and wildfire mitigation. The wildfire mitigation was released at the end of last week, and we're still trying to understand exactly what this program will look like. Priorities the next 30 days remain the same as they did back in February when we were here. Continue addressing this critical needs of our citizens. Continue coordinating debris operations, assisting the VOAD with housing repairs and coordination, processing hazard mitigation applications, and then working with FEMA. We have a number of parks that remain damaged, and our team is working with Director Kazee at the Rec Department on those projects, and then continuing to implement long-term recovery strategies. And as a reminder, our hotline operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If folks have any storm-related questions or needs, they can call 652-3241. I give you, excuse me, I give you a lot of numbers tonight. What our team always says is behind every number, there's a family, and there's children in many cases, there's elderly folks. We don't look at these just as numbers. We look at them as families, families that are still hurting from this historic disaster. Our team's main goal is to continue advocating for our citizens at every turn, treating them with compassion and respect and empathy, and continuing to push forward this recovery process to ensure it matches exactly what we did during the response phase, that we end this and our recovery looks identical to how we responded in the first couple of weeks after Helene. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Outstanding report.
We appreciate the good report as always. Mr. Kehler, you do a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple of action items potentially for you, but if I can make a comment first. I won't say which county it was, but I was on a call recently with multiple counties, but one of them said that they were just trying to figure out how to do their private property debris removal program. And they're not using Army Corps of Engineers like we did early on, and so they're kind of scrambling to figure out what they're doing. And it was a sad situation, honestly, because they're just overwhelmed. And I told Will about it later that, you know, with his leadership and his team, we're so blessed that we're in such good shape compared to many of our peers. And the big difference too is that many of the counties, some don't have the capacity, especially the mountain counties, they just don't have the staff. But some of the other ones, they've contracted out with folks from out of state, and again, they made that decision. But we've got locals, we have staff going out, knocking on doors, and it's a familiar face and the family connection already. So it's a big deal and a big difference to where we're not satisfied with the numbers we're seeing from FEMA and other places, but I think we're head and shoulders above some of our peers, so it's thanks to him.
Our county's blessed to have a man like William running that department.
I'm blessed to work with talented people every day and I told Mr. Wooten I want to make sure we get the team up here at a future meeting to recognize their work, because from daylight to dark, they're focused and they're doing a fabulous job.
By the way, congratulations to all of those that you just recently promoted. Every one of them are top notch.
No, I appreciate that. We're proud of that team. And I want to say thank y'all, because there's nothing that we've asked for that you all have not provided the support to let us lead this recovery from a local standpoint and put local faces in these communities. And that's made, as Mr. Wooten said, it's made a world of difference. And I think it's a model to use going forward, is making sure locals still continue to show up. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first item is pretty closely related to some of the updates he talked about as far as debris removal. There will be situations where either through, like that mobile home, that was able to be addressed in the town of Old Fort, but we will encounter debris out in the community that we're not able to have the contractors working for USACE, Army Corps, remove without, I'll say, county, town, or city intervention. And so they have come to us and said, we would like authorization from the county level, specifically here, by means of an ordinance that would allow us to remove something that's an obstruction in the sense of debris. And so his staff, I think it was Deputy Director Jones, assisted with crafting an ordinance. It's very simple, which we like simple and straightforward. In your packet, that would allow the authorizations that exist under statutes for counties to remove an obstruction essentially from property where we need to, like that mobile home. Again, that was addressed, but this is not something that is based on an adversarial situation with the property owner. This is something where a property owner would say, please take it off my property. If it was a situation other than that where it was, no, I want to hold on to that, whatever, then that's a whole different process. But this is where you have a willing property owner that wants it gone, that's allowing us to use statutory authorities. So we'd ask, we don't have to have a hearing on that, and have sent it to Mr. Coates, and he provided positive feedback on it, if you would.
I'd move that we approve the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Commissioner Green, are you going to include in that the participation in the loan program too? I know it's a separate item, but while we're here, you want to do it separate, no matter to me.
Come back to that depending on
All
how
right.
you want to look at
That's
it.
good to me.
Let's vote.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr.
Okay, so the loan program, this is it's the cash flow loan program that the General Assembly adopted, I believe, back in December. They made this available to every city and county that was affected by Helene. The idea is that $100 million was set aside that could be provided to governmental units on the front end to pay for expenses while you wait for FEMA reimbursement. And so we, like any other entity, as we go, we will start entering our reimbursable expenses, and then we will wait. And it might be relatively short in some instances, but if there's more involved, it may take longer. And so that was the idea for the state, especially for the smaller units, but every unit is eligible. The encouragement is here from staff as well as from like the Association of County Commissioners to have the authorization there to participate. Our numbers, it's about 217,000 that we currently are authorized for. And so what would happen if you authorize the agreement? we would receive that money, we would hold on to it and utilize it for reimbursement on FEMA if necessary, or expenses if necessary, while we wait on FEMA reimbursement. We don't have to use it, but if it can sit there, we might be able to use it. There has been some discussion, I think it's remote, maybe I'm a pessimist, where the funding could be made available, where it's essentially a forgivable loan, where it could turn into a cash grant. That's a possibility, but it might not be, but that's been floated as a potential, so.
Make a motion to accept the loan proposal as presented.
Second.
And I'll say really quick, there is no interest. The first payment would come due in about a year for $1, and then the second payment would be 10% out of that in June of '27.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Sir. It, take just a second there, to let everyone know. Okay. We, sometimes we get sort of blasted over not being able to do one thing and not being able to do another. And I just want to say, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but we've got so many things that we are responsible for as commissioners. And we've got our schools, which education is a very important thing to us. And we've got our schools, our college, our emergency services, our EMS, which we're so proud of, and they do such a wonderful job. And our sheriff's department, our seniors, our senior centers, and our DSS, our children, our seniors that are so important to us. Then we have the waste transfer station that's such a big expense to the county. And of course we've got our transit and our parks and recreation and trails. We contribute to everything. And I made the point once before that everybody has a special interest, but not all of us have the same interest. So it's the job of this board to try to entertain the needs of everyone. And so we try very hard to pay attention to the needs of every individual in this county. And we do have a heart for your thoughts and your feelings about things. Recently, to give you an example, there was several guys giving me a hard time over the transfer station, over the increase in the tipping, the $68 on the tipping. I walked away from that, took 20 steps, and then got attacked by someone else for not raising the tipping fee in order to do more. So, we try very hard to do everything we can to help everyone. And it's not, we don't just pick out our prize entities that we want to contribute to and put money in, and we try our best to distribute the money as fairly as we can with a $60 million budget and a 60,000 people living in their residents here in our county. It's hard to do that. So we just want y'all to understand that we don't pick and choose. We try to help everyone that we can. And moving along. Okay, sir. Foothills Conservancy.
Yes.
We welcome Michael.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here, Commissioners. My name is Michael Gaffney, and I'm here to represent Foothills Conservancy. We are a type of environmental 501c3 nonprofit called a land trust, and our primary mission is land conservation, as well as stewardship, education, and recreation and trails management. So we are based in Morganton, when we're accredited with the Land Trust Alliance, which is a national accrediting union for over 400 land trusts across the entire country. And since our founding in 1995, we've protected about 71,490 acres of land. And a lot of that has been in partnership with public entities like the U.S. Forest Service, Wildlife Resources Commission, and state parks. So of that 71,000 or so acres, we still own about 10,000 acres in our preserve lands, and we have transferred about 54,000 to other public entities. And across our 8-county service area that you can see up on the screen, we've done over 146 different conservation projects. A number of my favorite ones are in McDowell County. That includes Catawba Falls, which I hope many of you have been to, and the relatively new Bobs Creek State Natural Area, which is a new state park unit. And some sections of the Greenway outside of Marion were also created by the organization. So what I'm here to talk to you all about today is an exciting new conservation project that we're just seeking your support on and letting you know that we're doing in the county. And this project is called Hickory Nut Mountain, which is southwest of Marion, right outside of Old Fort on Old Fort Sugar Hill Road and Montfort Cove Road. And this is an incredibly exciting project. It's 12,000 acres of mountainous forest land at the juncture of the Blueridge and where the South Mountains kind of meet with the escarpment. And just for reference, that size is about the size of Manhattan Island. This is an enormous undertaking and a very impressive project. The elevation's going from 1,000 feet to 3,000 feet, and I can confirm that it is an intense and difficult hike that I've done a couple times now. It is a former forestry tract that is now privately owned by 131 of Chatham, which was purchased with the intent of a conservation sale. So what I just want to talk about for the next couple minutes is why we're doing this project, why it matters, and why we hope it's going to really benefit the county. So we'll start with what will happen after we acquire the project, which is that it will be divided between two state entities. One is North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. That'll be about 3,000 acres or so. And then another 8,000 acres will be going to the North Carolina State Park System. And we are in conversation with them right now for the creation of a new state park called Hickory Nut Mountain State Park. And there are going to be public accesses all across this entire conservation area. And one of the main selling points for this large conservation project is that it's going to host about 30 miles of the Wilderness Gateway State Trail, which was authorized by the General Assembly a couple years ago. Foothills Conservancy is the main constructor and designer of this trail, and we are currently building it to go from Catawba County all the way to McDowell County and then down to Lake Lure area. So it's going to end up being about 170 miles when it's all completed. And what is astonishing about this trail that my colleague is helping to construct is that a vast majority of the land is already conservation land, which means that we don't have to buy 100 parcels to connect it all up. The land's there for this trail. And I honestly think this is going to be one of the coolest trails in the state when it's completed. So I'm personally very excited about it. And we really want to emphasize that we hope this will have, and we think this will have, a very positive economic impact on McDowell County. We know from statistics provided that in Western North Carolina alone, it's about $1.4 billion worth of economic growth from trails, other outdoor recreation. And in McDowell County, that adds up to about 28 million. And we know that when we build really interesting trails and really interesting outdoor economic opportunities, folks come here, especially when they're in Asheville for tourism. And this particular project is only about 45 minutes from Asheville. So we anticipate, sort of like Catawba Falls, that people will come down I-40 and want to go to this project and want to go to Marion and Old Fort afterwards to recreate. So we really do anticipate this having a fairly significant and beneficial impact for the county. And this is just a few photos. You can see at that lower corner one, the top of the mountain has this amazing view of Old Fort and then the Black Mountains and Mount Mitchell in the background. So it's a difficult hike, but it's a very worthwhile one. And aside from the recreation and economic impacts, we of course want to emphasize some of the conservation values for a project like this. For our organization's entire founding since 1995, we have been trying to connect the South Mountains up to Pisgah National Forest and the rest of the Blueridge. This is a 30-year effort to build this conservation corridor for wildlife, outdoor recreation, rare species, and Hickory Nut Mountain is sort of the key to bring all of that together. And it is also habitat for a lot of really cool, interesting species, including 2 federally listed species, both of them bats, which are having a lot of trouble surviving now because of white nose syndrome. So protecting their habitat will ensure their survival. The project also has about 149 miles worth of streams on it. 12 of those are major, and then there are a lot of smaller tributaries as well. So it's going to have big water quality impact for all of us. And the last thing I'll say about this project is the uniqueness of being able to do a project that's about 12,000 acres. In an analysis that we recently conducted, this is the last parcel of this size left in western North Carolina and in the western 2/3 of this state. All of the rest of the parcels that are this big are out on the coast. So this is a historic name, creating project to do in this county. And it's for that reason that we have begun doing an enormous amount of fundraising in order to purchase this. The funding has so far come through the North Carolina Land and Water Fund, as well as the Complete the Trails Fund. We've secured about $5 million so far. We just wrote another $5 million grant to the Land and Water Fund, and we submitted a $27 million grant to the Forest Legacy Program through the U.S. Forest Service. So we're hoping to really pull all of this money together for this project. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. All we're really asking for is a letter of support from y'all and just to make you all aware of the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you
Well,
have.
that won't be a problem getting a letter of support from us, Michael. I'd just like to say, that land you're talking about, the Hickory Nut Mountain, that was my playground when I grew up.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah, so
That's been a long time ago.
Depressionary time.
Yeah, it's a terrific,
It
it's
is,
just a
and
terrific
I've been
place.
all over all of it, but and I'm glad that this is happening, because I remember my dad used to tell us boys when we were young and we would go up on the mountain and camp and hunt and things, he would say, son, you boys enjoy this, because one day it will be covered in houses. And so I'm so glad that is not going to happen.
Michael, tag in on what Chairman said, so 8,000 of that will be under the state parks, correct?
Yeah.
And that will still, people can still go up there and hunt, correct?
There'll be 3,000 of it.
Yeah, the 3,000 for the Wildlife Resources Commission is primarily for hunting and it'll be managed
I had
for
a word,
hunting.
sorry about that. Yes, that's still good though.
Oh yeah, that's still prime hunting ground.
And the economic impact is tremendous. I'll make a motion we approve endorse the grant application.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. We appreciate you.
Okay, next on the agenda is item F under appointments, and that will be the FY 2024 audit presentation, and we have Serina Hinson here for that. If you'd like to come forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Been looking forward to this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I am Serina Hinson from the firm of Lowdermilk Church and Company out of Morganton. So each of you should have a bound audit report. I also have some financial highlights that I handed out, and then performance indicators. So the first thing I'd like to mention is that we have issued a clean, unmodified opinion, which is a good opinion. Our opinion letter is on, I believe it's on page 1 of the audit report. But as you can see, there's a lot of information in the report itself, so I'm just going to summarize some of the information. So the next thing I'd like to do is just go over some of the financial highlights. Before I do that, I would like to mention that after we complete a governmental audit, the audit goes to the state treasurer's office for their review. And so I did receive notification this morning from the state treasurer's office that there are several items that they would like for us to look at. So if there are any changes to the audit report, we will see that you guys receive an updated copy of any changes. With that being said, you have a financial highlights page, and I'm just basically going to go over the general fund. I'm not going to hit on any of the other funds. So the page 1, and it's a comparison of 2024 in comparison to 2023. So for the general fund and for the financial audit, we're required to include your revaluation fund. So these numbers include your revaluation fund in them. So total assets for 2024 were $29.6 million in comparison to approximately $26 million in 2023. Fund balance was $27.5 million for 2024 in comparison to $23.7 million in 2023. Total revenues for 2024 were $65.8 million in comparison to $58.3 million in 2023. Total expenditures were $63.5 million in comparison to $54.2 million in 2023. Other financing sources, which could be transfers in or out, it could be debt funding. So other financing sources, $1.5 million in comparison to a little over $1 million in 2023. Your increase in fund balance was $3.8 million for 2024. Ad valorem taxes collected were $35.3 million in comparison to $28.8 million in 2023. Percent of taxes collected, 99.54%, and investment income, $1.2 million in comparison to a little over $500,000 in 2023. Fund balance available for the general fund, which does include the revaluation fund, is 32.09% in comparison to the prior year of 31.47%. Any questions on that?
Question, what does the state recommend a county of our size, the fund balance to be at percentage-wise?
The minimum is 20%, and we're getting ready to go over that on this next handout. It's 20% minimum, and the median of units of similar size is 39%. And so for 2024, McDowell County is 32.09.
So the state recommends 39% for a county our size.
Well, the minimum that's required is 20, and yes, to be comparable, they always show, what's comparable to other units of government. So, yes. Any other questions on the financial highlights? If not, we'll move on to the performance indicators. So on page 2, the fund balance available as a percentage of expenditures, as we were just discussing, the minimum is 20%. That is required, and then the 39%, which the State Treasurer's Office wants to see comparability amongst the units. And so McDowell County's is 32.09. Going down to number 3, positive fund balance of $27.5 million. On page 3, this is for the water sewer fund. So this is a quick ratio. So the quick ratio, less than 1, indicates that the unit owes more for its current bills than what it has on hand. That's not the case with McDowell. McDowell has 24.55. Going down to number 8, water and sewer capital assets condition ratio. This ratio, the capital assets condition ratio formula calculates the remaining useful life of your assets, and a remaining useful asset value less than 0.5 may signal the need to replace the assets in the near future. So McDowell County is 0.77.
So we're very good there, right?
Yep.
New lines, man.
Yep, that's positive. So everything's been positive, so. On page 4, so the State Treasurer's Office started this financial performance indicators a couple years ago, and that's what we're looking at now. So number 9 on page 4 is the only performance item that is of concern, and that's the fact that the audit was issued late. And our firm takes full responsibility. We were in constant contact with the State Treasurer's Office, letting them know what we were dealing with. So not only were we dealing with Hurricane Helene, but we also had a cyber attack on our system, and we were down for 2.5 months. So yeah, it was a lengthy process. But like I said, the State Treasurer's Office was fully aware of the impact. And so that's the only item that is of concern. And like I said, we take full responsibility for that. Number 12, did your audit disclose any budget violations? No. The unit, number 13, the unit or McDowell County did not have any material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no statutory violations. So all that is really good, all positive. And then on page 5, number 16, did the unit have problems with debt service problems? No. So all of the items are positive in the performance indicators. The only negative is the lateness, which was on us and has nothing to do with McDowell County. The last thing I have is there was a letter that was included with your audit report. And this is the governance letter, and it basically talks about if we had any difficulties encountered performing the audit. We did not. Disagreements with management, there were none. Did we consult with other independent accountants? We did not. And there were no findings or issues. So and that's basically what that is. Any questions on anything that I've covered?
It was a good presentation, and we are proud that we had no problems with the audit.
And we'd like to thank Miss Alison Bell.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hinson.
Allison, they need to vote to approve it.
Approve it, and we will copy you all if any of these changes that they've asked Serina to look at. If it changes anything, we'll let you know. I think it's just gonna be one schedule, and that's it.
I
Like
move
approve
we,
it.
go ahead.
To accept it as presented, excuse me.
Second.
Got a motion second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will note, and Board, it's in your memo, but we were notified by Ms. Hinson and her leadership that they will no longer be able to perform our audit in future years. And so we will be putting out an RFP for auditing services very soon. But I know Ms. Hinson has done a great job with her auditing for the last couple of years. So from staff's perspective, I know Ms. Belf is the same way. They've done a great job.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Okay. Moving along then to old business. Item A under old business would be the building projects. Mr. Wood, if you'll lead us off.
Yes, sir. I'll tick through a couple of these as quickly as you would like to go. You mentioned, Mr. Chairman, transfer station earlier. When I say transfer station, sometimes I mean the entire complex, but I mean mostly right now the facility up at the top of the hill where waste is unloaded and then on dump trucks or whatever, garbage trucks, and then loaded on hauling trailers. You approved the bid last month with a construction company named Bloom. We're still working out the details on that contract, but hopefully to get that signed very soon. And you've identified how it'll be paid for, et cetera. I'll talk more about this when it becomes more of a reality and closer to construction, because this will be a disruptive project when it happens. Just as a reminder, we've talked about it a long time ago, we will need to build essentially a secondary tipping floor on the outside of the current facility. That temporary floor will be probably about 2/3 the size of the current floor. So we don't have a big enough facility now for the waste we have. So think about a smaller floor. We're probably going to have to operate longer hours in order to handle the waste that we're going to receive. There's no other alternative to that, but we're going to hopefully use that temporary floor as little time as possible while the existing floor is essentially rebuilt. But that will probably start in the warmer months. There is a second set of scales that you've approved, and those are on order and will be delivered probably in the next couple of months as well. So we're trying to make that facility not as nice as some of our other public places, but nice for folks that need to go dispose of their waste.
What he's trying to say is, ladies and gentlemen, get buckled up and get ready for the...
It'll be disruptive, absolutely. More on the more positive side and more enjoyable for folks, the recreation center project. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for that project. We're planning, knock on wood, to have that pool open this swim season for this summer. So if you were able to go up there, you'll see what looks like a pool now. It looked like a dirt pit for a very long time, but it looks like a pool. The outline of the parking lot is there. You'll see a restroom building that will be available for public usage and adjacent to the green space that's there. So it's looking a lot closer to what it was intended to be towards the end of that project. There are a few things, I may have mentioned this before, that we might like to do outside of Beam's contract. And I've listed a couple in your memo. The existing parking lot adjacent to the building needs to be repaved. The locker rooms for probably many years need to be, the floors need to be resurfaced. And then one other item, that we have talked about previously are bleachers inside the existing gym. We used to have wooden bleachers, retractable bleachers in that gym. And when the floor was replaced a little over 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, those bleachers were removed perhaps because they could not be reassembled. I'm not entirely sure of the reason, but they're no longer there regardless. And we have metal bleachers like you might find at a ball field. And so we have been getting some prices on those. And
Mr. Chairman, I do want to state that since he's mentioned the bleachers, the metal bleachers, I know with the basketball tournament going on this past weekend, those bleachers are terrible. You know, you can fall in there, there's hot dogs, food falls in there. The pricing on the new bleachers are going to be similar to what is at Old Fort Elementary School. Is that correct, Mr. Wooten?
Yes, sir.
Where they'll be solid, nothing can fall down in there, easier for staff to clean, push up against the wall when they're done. And he's got 2 estimates on those, and he's recommending to take that money out of the overage, correct, on the project fund?
For the 3 there, yes, sir, the paving, the locker room floors, and then the bleachers, we should have sufficient funds in the project fund to pay for those 3, and maybe some other finishing touches once we get towards the end of the project.
I was going to be a little bit apprehensive unless that you cleared that up, that there is money there
Yes, sir.
in the current project.
And the cost is what, Ashley, for the bleachers? You've got that cost now.
We have quotes going from about 28 to about 40, so no more than 40. We try to get the low bid, obviously, if it's.
And the bleachers that were there that have evidently disappeared, would it have been possible to use them, or were they outdated?
They were an older style, but my impression is that maybe when they took those out to put in the wood floor, maybe they essentially fell apart because they had probably an older.
They destroyed them when they were taking them out. Okay. All right, thanks, sir.
Oh, going back to the bleachers there before we leave. So what's the timeline, and when should we be able to order those, to have those installed by next season?
It would take several months to have them on order and have them delivered, but they should definitely be there by basketball season this fall.
So your
Do
recommendation
we
is
need, any action need taken on this, since it's already part of the contract?
It's not part of the contract now.
Well, we can.
So is the
we can
money
have-
is the money there?
We have the funds for these items in our fund, but they're not part of Beam's contract.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion, we go ahead and address the bleachers. That way it gives staff time to get those in, ordered, assuming there's a waiting list that's been stated.
With
and
the
have
money
those
that's already in.
with the money that's in the project fund, that's going to be overage within that fund.
Are you making a motion for just the bleachers?
That's
Or the
right,
other
because
two?
that's the only thing they got a price on right now, and we know what that is. And the reason I'm doing that is because it takes time to order, and then the backlog, you see, it already said it's 2 months minimum, right?
At least. Some of the early numbers for the paving, we have one for about 23,000 and one for about 5 or 6 for the resurfacing. And we probably can do those because we've probably quoted those.
But I don't
to
mind to
death.
amend the motion if the recommendation
Cover that.
is do all 3 of them and
I would
we
go
got
ahead
the
and do
money to
it.
do it. I would amend the motion to take the money for the 3 projects that the county manager mentioned and take it out of the overage of the project fund.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll note, Mr. Chairman of the board, this is funding that you receive specifically for this project. So this
It's
is
got to stay there.
very specific. We can't use it for any other.
Okay, that's well
Purpose.
noted. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, sir.
A couple more building updates. The next one, the Clarks that were here earlier, they mentioned that they had purchased from the county a couple years ago now what used to be called the Foothills Pilot Plant. That was a small animal processing facility that was on county-owned property and is now in private hands, as they discussed. When that property was sold, you identified at that time that the proceeds, which was a little over $200,000, because it was being discussed, especially at that time, those proceeds be set aside for a replacement animal shelter at some point. So those funds have been sitting aside. At a subsequent point in time, you identified funding we had received from our ARPA allocation to where that funding equaled about $1 million that would be set aside for that shelter. And why did you do that? Again, because you had been receiving negative reports from NC Department of Agriculture about our current facility being inadequate for the size. And so as we were getting those two approvals, you had discussed having essentially a fundraising campaign, ideally to fundraise for the balance of the cost. Around that time, we started to kick off the fundraising. We did some preliminary evaluation of the site we preferred in 226 South, and it was determined that site was unsuitable due to poor soil quality. Essentially, the engineer said if you build a building there without spending many millions of dollars essentially to make the site suitable, the building would sink. And so you directed that staff find a new location, which again we've talked about. Just to highlight, you identified a location on Spalding Road adjacent to the law enforcement center. That site has been surveyed, a topographical survey, and has been shared with the project architect to be and found to be suitable. So I think we're back at that stage we were maybe before to start fundraising. And so I don't have a list in here of folks of who would like to help, but there are folks in the community that have reached out at times, would like to help, again, hopefully fundraise the balance of what's needed. Would you like me to, I haven't contacted them, but would you like me to contact them and make sure? And then,
Mr. Chair, make a motion, we have staff contact the appropriate committee members and bring that list back and form a recommendation of a committee to head up the fundraising.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then just quickly on the services building, we do have some state funding there. This has been a project that has been stuck in neutral for too long. We've identified, based on the funding we have, which is not a lot, but using the funds we have from the state, replacing the mechanical system being an ideal situation. It's the original HVAC for the building that opened in 1976. We did have a mechanical engineer go there last week. It's a new engineer for us. They come highly recommended. And so we're hoping to work up a scope there to replace that heating and cooling system for that building. So just a quick update there, and I'll bring back more later. And then on the DSS building, we had essentially put most, if not all, of our eggs in the basket of identifying primarily state funding for DSS building in the last probably 2 legislative sessions. And at both times it did not go anywhere. And so there's a new session this year, and we could talk about that in a second.
Hopefully our legislators will come through for us. Okay, moving along to item B is the water system project, Mr. Wooten.
Very quick update. The East End project, which is towards the end of our NEBO system on the eastern end, which is the purpose of the name. You did approve bids last month, and that project is going to be mobilized any week now. You see work out on Memorial Park Road, old number 10 in the NEBO area. That's going really well. A lot of interest and sign-ups there. Phase 3, which will serve additional side roads in NEBO, is also proceeding through permitting. Hopefully be bid in probably about 2 months. And then we have a very small project around Exit 90 that is not made it to state review yet, but it should probably any day now. Then the Providence area, West Marion Elementary area, the design of the project is underway. We have spoken with property owners adjacent to the pilot truck stop where a master meter will be located. Did receive news today that the lead project engineer on that project has moved on, and so we'll have to find out who that new engineer will be from our contracted firm.
Can you get a revised timeline since a new engineer is going to be coming on board for the board?
yeah, we'll hopefully find out who that is tomorrow and get them on caught up to speed. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks, sir. Next, under new business, we have item A, which is the Universal Technology Park grading. Updates on that, Mr. Wooten?
Yes, sir. So, again, very quick history. You received a grant about 3+ years ago to grade a building pad, which is now occupied by a shell building near our building, the Universal building. So this is off of Collins Drive. So you graded a site before a building was built on it that is available for a tenant. This is a second grant that would be utilized to grade a second site off that new cul-de-sac that we built several years ago. And so we do have Golden Leaf Foundation funds that have been made available. We did open bids in this room last week, and the bid tab is presented for you. So we would ask your motion be that you enter the bids into the minutes and award the low bid to Site Development Corporation for the amount listed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter the bids into the minutes, and we receive the low bid for the grading project.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, second. Discussion. One thing I'd like to mention is, according to Mr. Abernathy, there's a lot of interest in that property right now, and so we've got, I think, several prospective businesses looking at it, so I think it's a worthy cause. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, Mr. Wooten, item B is our legislative advocacy.
Thank you, sir. I touched on this a minute ago with the DSS building. For a number of years, we have put together, which you advocate for things that aren't physical assets, definitely, and you do that as part of the legislative goals process. This list you see here is capital needs, and they are generally somewhat sorted in the order of what I've heard your priorities to be, and variations of this list have been provided to Mr. Lauder, maybe in slightly different order based on federal priorities versus state priorities. But if you're okay with the list, and I've tried to update it based on recent bidding and costs, we would send this to our delegation as soon as possible.
Mr. Chair, make a motion we approve or endorse the list as presented by the county manager.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Item C would be the regular discussion. If you carry on, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. I was asked to place an item on the agenda to talk about revenue options for the county, specifically sales tax. As you know, we currently have various sales tax levies that we're able to utilize for local expenses, either for anything a county is able to expend funds for, or sometimes a limited expenditure such as school capital. The request was to place it on to talk about the optional 1/4 cent sales tax that counties are able to implement after the successful vote of the people in a referendum. And so again, just providing information that was requested. It is known as Article 46. That is because it is part of the taxation statute, which is NC GS 105. So I might say Article 46, or the 1/4 cent. As of 2025, 48 counties have implemented the additional tax. A referendum would need to be held and obviously voted in the positive for the tax to be implemented. And those referenda have to be held when all the precincts are already planned to be open. So you're not allowed to have a special election. So it either has to be in a primary or a general election for that to happen. And the tax revenue from a 1/4 cent sales tax can be spent on any lawful purpose that counties are authorized to do. So I will note from, you see your budgetary impact memo there, based on the current tax, sales tax revenue that we generate from what is called Article 39, that revenue would generate about $1.3 million on an annual basis, based on current sales again.
And we have to let the legislation know prior to hearing from, if we're gonna be getting any money from the state to get on like November's ballot.
You do not have to notify the General Assembly if you're going to have this vote. The only notification that has to be done is to the local Board of Elections to make sure they place it on the election you would like it to be.
Do we have to have a specific item that it's going to be used for?
There would be one thing that's been discussed is earmarking part of it for education.
The way the ballot question is listed on the, you're not able to have it on the ballot what you would want it to be for. And so it just says, would you like to implement a sales tax? And there's been discussions at the General Assembly about allowing that language to, maybe have several sentences, if not paragraphs, to explain to the voters what they would be voting for. But that's not happened. And so that makes it incumbent on the requesting county to talk with the public about what you want to do. You can speak, obviously, for it. You're not allowed to expend money to advocate for the passage. But if you were invited to, let's say, a Rotary meeting or something, you could speak about what you were planning to use the proceeds for. Other entities could advocate for such a sales tax and spend money for the advocacy, but you're not allowed to spend money to advocate for it.
I know that anytime the word tax is used, people cringe, and I do myself sometimes. But I also know how many people there are visiting McDowell County from other places that come through here, I-40, 221, 226, Highway 70. They're coming here from Florida, California, New York to vacation here, and they would be helping McDowell County pay for whatever it is that McDowell County chooses to do. I know that it's, like I said, it's hard to sometimes convince some folks of that, but 1/4 cent I'm willing to do for everything that I purchase, knowing that every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's coming into McDowell County is going to be helping me also.
I would support it mainly to deter any kind of property tax increase.
Yes.
That would be my issue, no property tax increase if we're going to do that.
And we've got an award-winning community college here that the school system already has devoted an Article 25.25 for them to be able to use, and we've got the college president back here, and here again, the partnership between the college and the school system, with the early college being housed down there, high school students at the college earning a 2-year degree, being a super senior, and what they're doing, I think that they would be a good partner, and language would be, and conversations would have to occur, but I think they're very needy. When I say needy, you're not needy. They could utilize a revenue source dedicated to them, and as Lynn said, it brought out a very good point, and we heard Michael talk about it with the presentation with the Foothills Conservancy group, that there's so many tourists that come in that could help maintain and advance our college just by buying items here in McDowell County when they're here. And so I would definitely look to partner with the community college and have maybe a foundation board down there, or a group from that area lead it and fully support it and give information on how it's going to be utilized. Because as a member of the public, I'm just like Lynn stated, I don't like to pay taxes, but if I know that it's going to, something that's going to help our young people in 2-year degrees going on to a 4-year college or learning a trade. And not everybody's going to go to a 4-year school, but they get a trade, they get a welding degree or certification that enables them to make $65,000 a year and stay here in McDowell County. I think that you're sort of handicapped right now in your ability to fund, and you've got to come straight to us for which we're required to take care of your facilities and grounds. So I think it's another, you'd be a great partner, and the college would be a great partner in this, I think, just for my little 2 cents.
Okay. We need to take action on that.
I don't, maybe let it
Okay.
percolate in your minds, but
All right.
what I would ask, if it's something that you would like to consider, we'll come back pretty
I
soon
would
with some
suggest
thoughts.
we bring it back to the table then again at a later time and talk about it some more.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving to item D, which would be a budget update.
This is mostly, if not all, information. Has your property tax collection report through the month of February, the most recent sales tax report. I will note for the FY26 budget, we will get those packets out in the next couple of weeks. And I do have a note there in your packet. And I've spoken, I think, all of you about some level of concern that the tax assessor and I share is that there is some impact to our tax base after Helene. Is it significant? Maybe not on the scale of some counties such as Buncombe, where you had maybe a little bit more concentrated damage in highly developed areas, but it's still any impact in reduction in tax base is an impact to the county and in the town in our instance. So we'll be monitoring that. And then lastly, you do have a breakdown we've provided, again, for information for what was remaining of our ARPA funding. I call it post-ARPA or former ARPA. It's no longer federal money, but it has been defederalized is the word I used. And so this shows how we are recommending the remaining funding be spent over the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wood. The chainsaw's been cranked up in Washington, so
A lot of
cutback on the federal funding.
not much.
Okay, moving to item E is the administrative items, and I know you've got several there, Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir. You have the 2 leak requests, you have EMS write-offs. The 2 that were added, the Trails and Trains Festival, 3rd year in a row, they're going to have a festival, which is good for Old Fort. Also have asked for a financial contribution of $4,000, which you have done previously. And then lastly, staff is asking authority to purchase an ambulance. There's a reimbursement resolution in your packet that was put out today for 2026 ambulance, and we will bring financing back when we have it.
Do you know what the $4,000 is spent on the trains and trails?
I think a lot of it is supplies for the event and maybe a little bit of
Yeah, and then
T-shirts, too.
advertising, they spend quite a bit on advertising and supplies, but there's no, I think, T-shirts and stuff like that are included in that, and different things to promote the festival.
I move we approve the administrative items.
Second.
Got a motion second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving next to item F, which would be board appointments. Madam Clerk, you,
We have no new applications to go over, Chairman. We'll continue to advertise for the open boards and committees.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is item G, tax matters. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. These are your typical releases, rebills, and refunds.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now moving to citizen comments. How many do we have signed up? All right, and that's all on citizen comments.
Yes.
Okay, next is Commissioner Staff Reports. Anything from the board or the staff? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
We
moved.
gotta go to a closed session.
Okay, motion to move into closed session.
I'll make a motion to go in closed session.
Okay,
Second.
favor say aye. We are going into closed session, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
coming.
Here it is. Make a motion to close.
Second.
I make a motion to not sit between the pen clickers in the next meeting. If I could not sit between the.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Was that bothering you?
No, it didn't bother
No,
her.
him going at it at you, doing it was
Adjourn.
adjourn, yeah, whatever, aye.
It's like
We are adjourned.